first look, that looks both carbonated and the right colour and very hoppy. Awesome. Hi everyone, the Hazy was one of my favourite brews of 2024 so far. In fact, I polished off the keg in absolutely no time. This though is the bottled version. How well did this one turn out compared to the keg? Today then we will taste test the bottles, add up all of the costs and work out the price per pint, check back on the fermentation profile, look at some of the vital statistics and finish off with some of our lessons learned. Starting then with our evaluation. Now the Hazy is still there. This is absolutely lovely and cold. The carbonation too is very good. I am liking that lots. And of course the aroma. Always the winner in this particular recipe. The bottle and the keg, both absolute winners. Cheers. Luckily I've got another bottle here. Moving on then to the schedule, this was all done end to end in 14 days. That's 7 days in fermentation, 7 days in the keg carbonating, and the keg then lasted no time at all. However, the bottles did take a little bit longer. I left those conditioning and carbonating in the bottle for a further 2 weeks before I cracked them open. The results though were fabulous. Still hazy, still wonderfully hoppy, lovely and carbonated, delicious. For vital statistics then, we had an interesting time with this recipe because the recipe itself was purchased for a different system, and then we had to try and recalibrate the new system to try and work out the settings. Our first guess was not quite right. Our brewhouse efficiency, for example, we estimated at 70% and it came in at 58%. That explains the reason why we didn't hit the targets for the OG, the FG and of course the ABV that we were looking for. However, with each new brew we can fine tune those digiboil settings to make sure that we get closer and closer to the results that we're looking for. This was our very first try. We were somewhat off target. OG then came in at 1.057 versus a target of 1.065, so we were somewhat under. But also the FG came in at 1.011 versus a target of 1.013. All in all, our end result was 6%, not far off target of 6.8%. Carbonation and colour were all good. But how much did it all cost? For this one then, actually the breakdown of costs between water, grains and hops are all fairly evenly split, with yeast also taking a good proportion of the remaining cost. What is interesting is I use bottled water, which definitely pumps up the cost of that particular element. And if you were using tap water and remove some of those sulfides or chlorides that are in that water, some of those costs would be far less. All in all then, we had 17.5 litres of bottled water. That was £5.08. We had a good variety of grains in the grain bill for this recipe. Total costs £10.71. We of course had a bit of an experiment in this brew by using the Lupo Max hops. This pushed up the price a little bit, but of course on the flip side should have given us more volume and less trub to remove. So all in all, a bit more cost, a bit more volume. 5.5 grams of Kvike yeast, that came in at £2.63, and finally miscellaneous other items such as the Woolflock tablet, which I didn't really need in a hazy, and also other water chemicals, all came in at a final £4. Total cost then £27.93. So what's the cost per pint? £2.44 per pint, or if you're a 500ml drinker, that's £2.15. This job's making me thirsty. Time for another. Cheers everyone, look at that. What wonderful carbonation that you can see nice and clearly there. Our 500ml bottle then is £2.15, a 330 would be £1.42, and our 4 litre mini keg came in at £17.19. Bargain. Moving on then to the lessons learned, and for our first lesson we're going to focus in on that digiboil. This was the first brew that we did, so there was a lot of measurement going on to learn how this new system worked. We took a lot of data during this brew. We were looking very closely at just what the boil off rates were. We were looking very closely at the volumes of all of the stages of the brew and the different power settings and the effect that they were having. All of this is going to allow us to calibrate the digiboil better for the next brew, which is coming up soon. Lesson number 2 then was about the temperature reading. It was really obvious the temperature at the top of the digiboil and the bottom of the digiboil were not consistent, and there was quite a significant difference between the two. There's no whirlpool or circulation in the standard system, but it's actually very easy for me to reconfigure some of my old equipment to allow that to happen in the future. Lesson learned, next one we will circulate. Lesson number 3 then is the hop stand temperature, and I was all over the place on this. It cooled too quickly, then I thought, well, maybe I need to heat it back up a bit to do the hop stand. I didn't actually need to do that, so going back to first principles, I did cool it too low for the hop stand. That was unfortunate, but I didn't need to try and re-raise the temperature at that point. So long as the temperature is below around the 82 degrees mark, then we're okay for the hop stand. We don't want to be generating any more bitterness, but we do want to be adding all of those wonderful hop aromas. So actually, even though the temperature was too low, it was a bit of a nuisance, but it would not have had as a significant effect as me mucking about trying to get the temperature back up and then back down again, all completely unnecessary. Lesson number 4, and I don't exactly know what to take away from this one. I ordered the original kit as fine crush because I was going to do a brew in the bag, but of course the digiboil now has a grain basket, but I still had the fine crush grains. I did end up with a lot of trub inside the kettle afterwards. I wonder, is that because it was a fine crush? Would I have had less if I'd used a normal crush? I'm not sure, but I will go back to a normal crush for my next digiboil recipe. Lesson number 5 were those concentrated Lupo Max hop pellets. They were great, and I do think I had a lot less trub left in the kettle as a result of using those. Nice one. Lesson number 6, and I did mention this earlier, I did include a Wilflock tablet in this recipe. Why? I certainly don't really need one for a hazy. Hey ho. Actually, this is a bit clearer. I think in the bottle it might be a bit clearer. A little less hazy. Lesson number 7 then, no whirlpool. I did miss that a little bit, and I do think it makes a difference both in terms of the speed of cooling and also circulation and maintaining temperature. I will try to start to make some adjustments next time to reinstate some of the old equipment I can into the new equipment to allow at least circulation to happen and also a little bit of a whirlpool. Lesson number 8, my cooling is somewhat underpowered. My old 10 litre system, it worked fine. Now I'm moving up to a bigger system. This still just about got me through, and thank goodness it was Kveik yeast and I only had to get it down to 30 degrees centigrade to pitch. I think I would have really struggled using this system for cooling. I am going to have to think about this a bit more. If I don't change the system, I at least need to introduce ice water or something similar into the cooling system to help bring it down a little bit more. Also, the circulation will help lots too. Lesson number 9 then was the fermenter. I'd planned this recipe to be an 8 litre recipe. My fermenter was 8 litres and I couldn't quite squeeze those extra 3 litres that I produced anywhere. So I ended up with a bit of waste on this brew, and some of this was down to those wonderful Lupo Max hops. But given that I used 8 of the 11 litres in the fermenter, I probably should have scaled down the dry hopping just a little bit to balance that. However, I can't say it was a particular problem. This is wonderful. And the hop aroma is still terrific. I am a big fan of the Citra, but I do think it's the Mosaic that comes through the strongest. And that is it for the lessons learned. So thank you very much everyone for watching. I do appreciate it. Do like and subscribe, and please feel free to comment. This retrospective is from the grain to glass. Check out the full video if you haven't seen it already. And there are some outtakes to check out for all the bits that landed on the cutting room floor. Well, cheers everyone. Like and subscribe. Good health and happy homebrewing.